Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. Welcome to our program on Target. And as usual, pick up a telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything. Socioeconomic issues, the present environment in our country, NDC convention, the month of March, anything. And the most important of all, you can cut us off at any time and introduce your own subject matter. The number to call is 442-0175. We must apologize for yesterday. We had some difficulties and challenges that we were not able to reach the station in time to conduct the program. So we regret it. We're here today, and you can pick up the telephone and give us a call. We have a good democratic process in Grenada. Sometimes if you don't use it, you could lose it. All of us is responsible for the direction of we go. That is what democracy is all about. You have a right to lobby government. One of the ways you lobby government is by expressing your views and opinion. Don't agree with something, sometimes you have to discuss it. I always encourage people to discuss issues in your own homes, with your children, among partners, in the community. Discuss the issue. Sometimes you have an idea, and when you throw it out, other people might ransack the idea. But from that idea may come, it may evolve to something more palatable and profitable. So let's speak. We're in the month of March, and March is a significant period in Grenada. I think it was the 3rd of March, 1795. We had the Federal uprising, and it had a serious influence and impact on Grenada. For St. Andrews alone, Federal was able to conquer Pilot Hill and most places in St. Andrews. Governor home was in Paraclete, and he feared to go over Granitang because he believed that Federal would have racing, so he should go back over the Belvedere. But by that time, Federal lost the battle because those who he expected to lead in St. George's did not. They said the Laguenards did not support Federal. Federal believed they would have given him support, but they turned against Federal. So Federal realized he had lost the battle, and Ninian Home was slaughtered. He was executed. This is some part of our history. Grenada tend to have some level of violence in its history. And again, we had March, when we had the first Marxist-Leninist revolution in the Commonwealth. Grenada was the first country where you overthrow the legitimate government. We won the election 9 seats. The opposition won 6. The opposition party then had a number of lawyers, and they had more clout in the legal fraternity. But there was no question of irregularities at the poll. The Gary government won the election fair and square, but they decided to overthrow the government in 1979. The election took place, I think, in 1976, 1979. And then for 4.5 years, we have what you might consider the revolution. Michael Baptiste would always say a coup d'etat, the coup d'etat experiment. During that period of time, Maurice Bishop was a great orator. And as such, he was well loved, a very charismatic individual. And he spoke on subjects That was the order of the day during this period of time. Maurice Bishop, so he was well respected in the international community. And a lot of Grenadians love Maurice Bishop. I have not heard anyone in Grenada, anyone who hate Maurice Bishop. It's almost a paradox. The man who has done more damage to this country than anybody else, or than all the politicians put together, nobody hates him. Even those he sent to prison. You know, Maurice Bishop jailed over 3,000 Grenadians, went to prison without charge, without trial, or without an opportunity to defend themselves. Over 3,000 Grenadians. The last time a young fellow approached me in a function, and he asked his mother. He's a regular listener to my program. So his mother tell him, no, it's not all that. It can be 3,000 people. And I spoke to him and I said, go and ask Stillman Thomas. He was the Prime Minister of Grenada. And he was jailed too. So he knows the exact number. And I'm being very conservative when I say 3,000. It's more than that. About 3,000 to 4,000 people flee the country. The majority of them went to Trinidad. They flee to avoid heavy manners. During that period of time, the revolutionaries was quick to call you counter-revolutionary, CIA agent. And they would quickly tell you they'll put you under heavy manners. So this was the period of time that we spent in Grenada. And it was not an easy time for some people. Some people was very motivated by the revolution. Some people got opportunities to go to study in Czechoslovakia, Russia, Africa, Cuba, and a number of other countries. Several hundred scholarship, I think, was given to go away and study. And some people had big dreams, but 3,000 Grenadians languished in prison. And that could never be right. A number of people have tried to justify the revolution by the contributions that was made to the health system, the education system, and the fact that Maurice Bishop built an international airport started, also the MNIB, Marketing Board, and NIS. And I say to them, did the ends justify the means? St. Vincent have an international airport now. No one was jailed. Barbados had an international airport before Grenada, and they didn't jail one person. St. Lucia had Hiwanora and VG. No one went to jail. So the price we paid for the pittance we got can't be justified. We had incidents where people was castrated. One case that went to court. I'm going to speak about those that you cannot challenge me on. Went to court, castrated the individual. We had incidents in Tivoli and the surrounding areas and Montrich. These areas, Montrich, they was targeted for serious heavy manners. A number of their citizens, men, boys, and women were placed in prison. Then what was done to the Rastafarian community? Yes, scholar, welcome.
James, good day.
Yes, scholar.
Yeah, like it was off yesterday, man.
Yes, I had some challenges yesterday and couldn't make it up in time.
Yeah, but into the Prime Minister, he did say about contract work. You see, the reason why the former administration give contract work is so they could fight at will. But I understand a contract worker in the Ministry of Labor was fired at will too. But so I don't understand the same thing he preach about if he himself come back and do the same thing. So that's why you have to say this man is a fake truth, because you say the main reason they give him, and I'm surprised that the woman was on contract, because I thought the contract work that done away in Grenada, because the way he preach like that, he plans to take government to court for contract work, because he said that illegal. So then I understand as the woman was fired, Thomas woman, I understand that she was on a 2-year contract. So I say maybe he can't know that she was on contract. I have to say that because he said he don't want no contract work. So I'm surprised she had contract, because he did say the reason why they put in people on contract is to fire them. But to fire them. So now he returned to his government, he do the same thing what he was talking about. So Pierre, listen, take care.
And this is why sometimes we speak about Maurice Bishop a lot. Because Maurice Bishop was a good orator. And I believe maybe he had good intentions for Grenada. And Eric Gary was there, but Eric Gary was the template at the time. So there was not much comparability that one could have made. But there was a lot of people in Grenada who should have helped Maurice Bishop, but they did not. They hated Gary so much because Gary's main thrust, his main intention was to help the people in the lower income strata, the estate workers. And as a result of that, they saw it as a direct disadvantage to the economic base. And they hated him with a passion. So they supported Maurice Bishop from day one, although they were quite aware that he was doing things that was fundamentally wrong. So when Maurice Bishop went up in Simoon with thousands of people, and he had the People's Court, and they passed a number of resolutions in Simoon. But one of them was that the Prime Minister, Eric Matthew, should report to the nearest police. They signed a warrant. Maurice Bishop signed a warrant for the arrest of the Prime Minister of Grenada, Eric Matthew Gary. And he did that in Simoon. I remember as a boy that time, big argument, whether or not Bishop could arrest Eric Matthew Gary. At that time, his supporters was convinced. They couldn't believe that somebody in the opposition could have done that. And the other voices in our country that people were looking upon, lawyers, doctors, political activists, trade union leaders, businessmen, they were silent. And some of them was giving quiet support. So when Maurice Bishop and them got some lash in Grenville in November, it wasn't by accident. I think they say within 28 days, Gary must report to the nearest police station, because they signed a warrant for his arrest for crimes they claim he committed. And I think that is what resulted in after the time passed and a whole set of them come up Grenville, people thought they needed Gary supporters take the law into their own hand, just as how they took the law into their own hand in Simoon in the People's Court. So when you hear the People's Court in Grenada today, they are imitating the actions of Maurice Bishop then. So people in the society, in a democracy, sometimes you have to have other voices that bring balance. Voices of the trade union, voices of civic group and organization, voices of independent intelligentsia. Yes, caller, welcome.
Yes, Mr. Pierre, good morning.
Yes, caller, great man.
Yes, with all what you're saying, but you still have to let them know. Remember that what Kenneth Kaunda said to Maurice Bishop, also in Simon, that your enemies is right here on the stage. I don't know if I think I'm right.
You say the revolution is like a serpent. It eats
He
its
said to
children.
Maurice Bishop, your enemies is not the people
He say your
of
enemies in
Grenada.
your footstool.
Your enemies is right here, sitting here with you now. And he did never ever lie. So you're talking right. Let the people know
Yes, but people
how
must
things
know.
went down, what had happened. And it's exactly what you're saying is the exact truth. Continue, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, the people must know. You see, you wouldn't, that is not written in history. As the caller said, when Kenneth Kaunda come, he said, the revolution is like a serpent. It eats its children. He said, your enemies is in your footstool. Bishop never played on the radio again. But we were able to learn what Kaunda said with this one speech. We have never heard it officially again. But some people could have recite minutes of Kaunda's speech. That one occasion they heard it on the air. Because you see, we used to always sing, let them come, let them come. We go bury them in the sea. And AK speaking Spanish, and Reagan can understand it. So we were made to believe that the enemy is United States of America and imperialism. They say if you touch Nicaragua, you touch Cuba, you touch Grenada. There were a number of people in Grenada that could have told Maurice Bishop to stop this stupidness. You can't beat United States of America. Grenadians were marching with AK and shaking it. They say, let them come, let them come. So we were, because Maurice Bishop is an orator. When they speak, if they cry, you cry. If they laugh, you laugh. He deceived Grenadians. But the people who were worse was the individual who stood idly by and give him salt without pointing out you're wrong. Don't challenge. The Chinese say never encourage your enemy. The Chinese invented diplomacy. You see, in Grenada, even though they spent 10 years here, they still pretending they cannot speak English. They hardly ever watch you in your eyes. They don't interfere in your politics, nor your confusion. And they come for 1,000 years. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Yes, Mr. Pierre, I'm back again.
Yes, my brother.
Remember, when the people of this country was saying to Maurice Bishop at the time, Brother B, there is a traitor in here. And the Prime Minister said to the people, you got to stop that because you'll be placed more under heavy manners. And they keep saying it to him. And it happened. And it happened exactly from the Minister of Finance and what he was, in charge of defense or whatever he was. Right? We don't call him on the radio as we say it. People should know what we're talking about. If you just take a little pattern and people just listen from what happened Sunday, if you notice carefully that the 9 NDC candidates that formed this government, it's the young people, you watch carefully. Again, Grenadians, be observant. You watch on Sunday how much of them had removed from the position. Same people who couldn't face the election because they feel they was going to lose. You see what happened again. Be careful. You see they come back and take the positions to direct and control Grenadians. Be observant. Thank you very much.
Yes, I think we always have to be observant and we have to try to deal with truth. What is true? We have to be logical and we have to be practical. I always say to individuals, don't readily believe what you hear on radio. Because there are some people who twist in the truth and sensationalizing the truth. But you must be practical and do a bit of research and see. Maurice Bishop could have been saved if individuals said to him, what you did in Simoon was wrong. You ought not to do that. You can go, if you want to challenge the Prime Minister, use the justice system and take him to court. Don't go in Simoon as if it is a government passing resolution for the arrest of the sitting Prime Minister. So our voices must be loud and clear to let politicians know, while we will tolerate some level of excesses when you speak, but you ought not to openly lie to the public. I think this is significant. The police in Grenada should not believe any lie, because police are trained to be suspicious of you. If you go and give the police evidence, they're asking you one amount of questions because they don't believe you. But when a government decides to tell lies to the lowest income strata, the group that depends on them the most, then you should have independent voices saying, no, that is wrong. When you have a government and it does not seem to understand what the foreign policy is, you need to be concerned. This is the month of March. Grenadians cannot say they don't know. We have had a lot of experience. We have had a lot of accord political experience in Grenada. We must learn from it. We are the only country in the region that overthrew the legitimate government. I think we are the only country in the Caribbean that execute a commissioner of police. We are the only ones that execute a prime minister and a number of the cabinet ministers. So we have a lot of past history that we could use as reference for us to be guided in our forward trust. Government today, that the foreign policy seems to be confused and challenging. This is not the era of ideology, whether you support China, Russia, America, or Cuba. Joe Biden in America is accused of being too left. Donald Trump and the Republicans is accused of being too right. So the line of demarcation between ideology is very blurred in this present time. And small countries as ours, even if we are independent and we could do what we want, we must do what is in the interest of Grenada. And when you see you have a government that a foreign policy seems to be confused, perhaps it is time for you to discuss the issue, because it could have serious repercussions. Remember, Ronald Reagan said in the White House, it is not nutmeg that's at stake, but the American national security. A little country like Grenada, with 900 people as an army and a few hundred Cuban soldiers. No Air Force, no Coast Guard or Marine weapons, 6 armored cars, and about 6,000 AK. Ronald Reagan said it is not nutmeg that's at stake, but the America's national security. Because Maurice Bishop was saying, if you touch Nicaragua, you touch Cuba, you touch Grenada. What sort of language is that? Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr.
Yes,
Pierre,
caller, welcome.
afternoon. Mr. Pierre, in Grenada here, some people say they are men and women of moral and integrity, and men that stand for righteousness. And Mr. Pierre, as if you really if you really consider yourself as a true patriot and someone that love your country, don't matter who you see doing wrong things, you should stand up and tell him as a big man and tell do it is wrong. So they could change the ways of doing things, the ways of dealing with people. But you see, when I analyze what's happening, sometimes you have someone is so close to the person, say you love the person, and then you want something from the person, and you tell yourself, but if you stand up and you criticize the person and tell what you're doing wrong, that change, that you might not get what you're looking for. Well, I always say it's better to stand up and be a man of integrity, a man that care, a man that love people, and stand up for what is right, and and you don't get what you're seeking for, because what you're seeking for is your personal interest. But by you standing up and speaking for what is right, you could save your nation, and you could bring back your nation from going on the wrong road and put it back on the right track. Mr. Pierre. That's my piece this evening.
Yes, caller, thank you, but that is easier said than done. All of us, to a certain extent, is guilty of that. Now you have two main political parties in the country, and you may find some militant members of both political parties that may follow the party religiously. And even if the parties might be doing something wrong and they're concerned about it, they would still hide it from the public. You cannot expect that. When the party has a history of doing things wrong and doing things against the own party interests, I believe even if the most militant should sit down and think about it and try to change. Because it is not in your interest. It is not in your survival interest. This is one of the things that baffles me the most. National Democratic Congress seems to be doing the same thing every time they come in power. And it has so much a negative impact on the future, but they still do it. So in 1990, we had a harsh economic period. The National Democratic Congress immediately turned on the people in the lower income group, the elderly, the marginalized. They cut social programs. Well, most political parties in the world would know if you do that, you're going to get unpopular and you're likely to lose election. That is exactly what happened. The NDC lost election. They remained about 10 years in the wilderness. They came back in power in 2008. They won 11 seats in government. And everybody thought, well, this is a new NDC. And they did the exact same thing. They immediately went after the elderly, the physically challenged, and disadvantaged children, and the young people. They cut the money program. They reduced the number of people on the social safety net program. And the $450 they promised, $400, they promised. They use an elderly, which was unethical, to advertise it. They never even give him a loan. And they lost election. And they remained 2 terms in the wilderness because they went after the poor, the marginalized, and the low-income strata. in that very 2008, they gave benefits to the people who with discretionary income. The better economically strong people, they gave them tax break. What did the NDC do in 2022? The exact same thing. Under 1 year in office, the NDC has 1,500 jobs. They also gave tax break to the people who is more solid, better income base, people with more discretionary income, who we might call more likely to be wealthy. They gave them tax breaks. And they are firing people in the lower income group, cutting social programs, and remove $150 from the most vulnerable people in this country. This is a pattern. This is a history. Even the most militant members of the NDC should go in a post-mortem and try to understand why a political party does the same wrong thing to the same group of people all the time. I wonder if it's not a virus that takes the DNA. I can't even believe. In my research, no other political party in the Caribbean have this track record as the National Democratic Congress. No other political party in the Caribbean. So it's difficult. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good day, sir.
Yes, caller, welcome.
I realize we're not hearing about the best budget. We were told that the last budget that presented in Grenada was one of the best budgets. Now I don't hear nothing. I feel that budget must be bust. I don't find I hearing nothing about it.
It all depends, caller, it all depends on who you believe. Immediately when the budget was read, the day after, I said the budget is a disaster for people who falls in the lower income group. So it was never the best budget to me. It was a budget I thought was a disaster for people who fall in the lower income group. If you was a businessman, if you owe government tax, the budget was very good for you. So there was a clear line between those who don't have to have. So I never saw the budget as a good budget. Some of the proponents of the budget claim it was good, but I never saw it as a good budget. I saw it as a disaster.
Finance the budget because we lose with good concession for the citizens who buy investment programs. So
no, we don't lose it. The government is satisfied that they will collect the money that they plan to collect. And unless the time reached that they didn't do it, we can't say we lose it. The government doesn't seem to have a financial problem. The government doesn't seem to have a problem to fund the budget. And if the government make the budget and they don't have a problem to fund it, we can be saying that. The government have money, they don't broken. In other words, the government have money, they don't broken. Is what the priority lies in.
Oh.
Yeah, the government doesn't care. The government never cared about the people in the lower income group. When they remove the $150, they never said, I have not heard no government minister say it is as a result of economic problems. They said the previous government budgeted for 1 year, but they never said they did not have money to give the people there. Yes, scholar?
All right, well,
yeah.
All about people crying, young people crying, everybody saying things hard. I don't know what's going on.
Well, while some people crying, some laughing, because that is the intention of the government. The government purposely disadvantage the low-income group. They're angry because 10,000 toilet was built for people who did not have. You have to, it's difficult for some people to understand that. But you have to go back and study NDC historically. Look at the National Democratic Congress. They always fire, purge, or dilute the significance of anybody in the party that seems to have a good relationship with people, interact with people well, and are moderates. They purge them out. They like them hardliners. I know it's difficult for people to believe, but that is the NDC. They did it in 1990. They did it in 2008. And now in 2022 they start. Look at the language that comes from their mouth. Look at how insulting they are to the people in the lower income group. Yes, scholar. It's a difficult thing for people to understand. But we must understand the truth. Otherwise, we're going to make serious mistake. Maurice Bishop was going down the slippery slope. Some of his friends and some of the people who were supporting him could have pointed out that to him. You're going down the slippery slope. By the time they think to tell him, it's too late. Maurice Bishop took advantage on the people in Tivoli and the surrounding areas in Montjuic and Montrule. And people had to point out that is wrong. You can't castrate people. They asked the man, you know how they castrate in a pig? He told them yes. They say, how? He said, well, you cut the balls and you throw some salt out on it. He said, we're going to castrate you like a pig, but we're going to add pepper. You don't have to believe me when I speak, you know. If the records in the Grenville, you could go there. That is where the preliminary case was held. I'm not telling you about the others because there was no case. When they pung out some of the policemen toenail, Bobby Clark was there to supervise over the torture. Now, this is our history. We cannot walk away from it. We can't disfigure it. If we disfigure it, that is why we have Deacon Mitchell. Deacon believed he could stand up in front people, put on the most angelic face, and lie with impunity. Well, the lies are coming out to haunt people. You were told you will not be fired. You were told you will be made permanent. One little sister she involved in the caregivers program. The minister that is the representative that is collaborating with the minister in the said constituency beg for them to be re-employed. And the Minister of Social Affairs say yes. But I understand now they are being fired incrementally. I don't know if the minister, the representative knows that yet. But one girl tell me they can't squeak. She said they fire them incrementally. She understands that is the plan. Find the least excuse and fire them. She tell me where she is going to go next year. They say leave her still because she go reach 60. And when she reach 60, she had to go. These people working for about $600 and something a month. You know. They are the ones who go to the elderly home, the caregivers program. Well, obviously, it was a program that started because Grenada have the most home for the aged in the region. A lot of people in homes. So the idea is if we could give them some assistance, we could help these people to to age more healthily and with dignity in their own homes. So if 2 or 3 times a week, you send somebody there to help them, and the neighbors pull in and relatives. This was the idea behind it. So they fired all these people, and the representative intervened, and the Minister of Social Affairs agreed for them to be re-employed with the exception of the coordinator, or how you call the person. And now it seems that she is reneging on her word. And these people are fired one by one. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, caller, welcome.
That is why I upset with Dr. Mitchell. He said, I know for sure he's here in all that and them. And when he go to Parliament, he sit down and not say nothing. And he's not coming and give us no information. So that I want him to come and announce the date for the convention. And we're going to find our delegates and our representatives, and we're going to go and do what we have to do, man. 8 months, 1,500 people gone home, and he's satisfied with that? By the time they reach 3 years, what happened? And everybody would be on the breadline?
Well, not everybody. They must have somebody. Most of the people at the NDC find is people in the lower income group. They cannot fire public officers.
Yes, I know. They can't do that. No, because these are not going to put them in the place.
Yeah, they close down the country tight as wax if you try that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then the same people he want to come and ask to come and support him again.
But remember, the NNP begged not to do that.
Yes,
in all fairness to the NNP ministers, the NNP begged people that the NDC did it in 1990. They do it in 2008. They could do it again. Instead of that, the NDC lies was most outrageous. And people fall for it.
And any opportunity they get, they're going to do it. Any opportunity they get, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. In all fairness to the parliamentarians on the NNP side, they beg that you cannot. Dr. Mitchell was in the house. He said they want you to make everybody on permanent come in office and see who's going to support you with that. He said you have to go in a school to learn to be the jefe you want to be. The NNP ministers begged the public that the NDC was tricking you. They fell for the trick. So I don't think it is fair to say the NNP ministers sleeping. I believe deep down they were prepared to give the NDC a whole year before they open their mouth. A situation, but this is the, and that is why I believe moderate members of the NDC must wonder why is it you have a party like that? Because if you continue on that trajectory, you're going to lose the next election. Well, why are you doing the same thing, the same evil? You're practicing it against the poorer people of the community. This is my difference. Most of the individuals in the NDC party who were government employees were educated with government taxpayers' money. I know a lot of them, and I know they got scholarship to study, and I know it was as church mice. So the parents did not have the money to send them to universities. They were educated with taxpayers' money. So they may come back with a bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate, and they believe they are dons. I say you are dons in borrowed feathers. And they are the ones it's so difficult for people in the lower income group. This is one of the reasons that I don't care about compensation from Europe for slavery. I don't care about it at all. Because the black man that sold us into slavery, our black leaders in Africa sold us into slavery. They collaborated with the slave buyers and sell black people in slavery. Slavery was existing in Africa for about 700 years before Europeans go and buy slaves. So I don't care about that. If you get money, say thank God. If any white people or Europeans get a rude awakening, maybe they turn Christian and they start to see in a different light, and they want to give you back some money for the time they enslave you, I say thank God. But I don't care about that. Because in Grenada today, history of oppressing one another. As soon as we get a little education, we believe that we're in a better position than our brother, and we don't see the justification and the need to help pull them up. We're oppressing them. You don't have to believe me, but ask yourself, why the National Democratic Congress? What justification, what explanation, what reason they have for taking out $150 from the poor of the poor? Why is it they're so negative about building toilets, providing toilet facilities for the destitute poor? Why is it the National Democratic Congress have a history of always want to disadvantage the Imani? When these programs are practically social programs to help alleviate the high unemployment in the country. Why? I mean, if you could answer these questions, you may get a peep into the DNA of the NDC. I always challenge them and invite them for discussion. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes, scholar, welcome.
Yes. You know what make it worse, again, with the African slave trade is that the fact that Africans been selling Africans to the Arabs, right? It was happening many years before they start selling Africans to the Europeans. Those that they sold to the Arabs, the male were castrated because the Arabs said that the African man had an uncontrollable sexual appetite. So they been castrating them. And after the European slave trade ended, for 14 centuries later, Africans continue to sell the Africans into slavery. And when I look at the evil in this country, you know this thing they're talking about, reparation. We have to change our minds. We are too wicked towards each other. Right? Talking about reparation is nothing. The problem is the mindset. Once we continue to hate and be spiteful to each other, the problem going to continue. Because our foreparents that was sold to the European slave masters, they passed better than those who were sold to the Arabs. Because when you look at the documentary, the whole history, you know, tears will come from your eyes when you see what those Africans who were sold to the Arabs, what they went through. The amount that was sold to the Arabs, way over what was sold to the Europeans, yet still, how many Africans can you find in these Arab countries? They all was killed, castrated, they can make children brutalized. And the same thing or similar things happening still today with us. Thank you.
Color we have to really make people understand that. All people don't understand that. As soon as an individual gets education in Grenada, they turn a master's degree, a PhD. Look at the attitude of some of our people who believe they swallow the grammar book. Some of them can't English, they're laughing at people. The school at them. Look at the terminology used. Some people against people from the lower strata. Our challenge is a mentality. You know, Paul Kagame in Rwanda. A 5-year-old going and working in England, same countries, asking for reparation. That is the cream of our crop. Look at what the government of Grenada is doing to the people in the lower income group. And they're chastising them for being poor. When you hear people speaking, yes, caller, welcome.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr.
Yes,
Pierre.
welcome. Welcome.
Yeah, very good topic indeed, yes. In concerning the issue of the party doesn't like the elderlies and stuff like that and what they've been doing, it is amazing how when a caller asks, how come you don't remember the best budget? And then you will hear somebody will call a program and say, well, the 150 was put there as an election ploy and it was temporary and all these kind of things like that. And then you will hear these same callers say they never listened to the budget before until Deacon Mitchell, right? I clearly ask of anybody, please go back and look at the budget 2021 presentation of what the Honorable Minister of Finance, Gregory Bowen, presented. And you will see where he put this 1/5, right? And you will understand why he did it and his explanation. Remember, we was in COVID also. In certain parts of the story. Honorable Deacon came and said it was them that had to go back to Parliament because the money was temporary. They had to go back to Parliament. They won election in June 23rd. They said they had to go back to Parliament. Grenadians listening. They said they had to go back to Parliament. When was the first Parliament sitting of this new NEC? It was way down in November. Come on. So if they go back in November, what was happening in July, August, September, October, November? Wasn't that money being paid? People don't listen, and that's the problem we have with the NEC radicals. Anytime an MP official goes on a particular program, I am hearing that the surrogates and the very arrogant ones are guiding their supporters to go and berate any member of NEP that goes on a program. This morning, an old NEP member went, when I say old, not in age, but an express member, she was in a program and she was talking basically about Women's Day and all this kind of thing. And you know, yet for all, is women are calling, bashing a lady and trying to disrespect a lady. Come on, we can do better than that. We can leave politics out for a while and come back with it. But when we're not informed and educated, we will make some wrong decisions like what we did in June 2023. And if we continue that path, we have good coming for us. Have a good day. God bless you later.
Yes, caller, we have to continue to encourage discussion. Even if somebody come on my program and they disagree with me, sometimes they go after personal attacks. I try to avoid personal attacks, attack family, because most time I have to tell them that me and them is family. I'm a family wide in Grenada. About 90% of Grenadians are my family. So it don't make no sense attacking family. But we have to have a lot of tolerance and continue to sit down with the discussion for people to change. Yes, you have a political party and not everything you're going to go and wash your dirty linen, as people say in public. But there are some fundamental issues you ought to speak on. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pay.
Yes, caller.
I'm going to punch because I know
Yeah.
time is of the essence.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Pay, how will that reparation money benefit us, the people of Grenada? Are we going to receive some of the money going to the government coffers? And can you ask me again? I ask you again. The gentleman who last spoke, yes, I understand everything Keith Mitchell, the Grenadian people, some of the Grenadian people saying that they do not understand the budget when Dr. Keith Mitchell was reading it. Some of them, I'm telling you the truth, Mr. Pierre, they wasn't interested in anything what Dr. Keith was about to say. Anything he's going to say and implement for Grenada, none of them was interested because they just want to see the back of them. So, Mr. Pierre, have a nice day. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Yes, scholar. I think one of the ways they could get, it depends on what programs they get it involved in. Because if you give people what you call, that's an individual family that decide to make a token of reparation to Grenada. And nothing is wrong with that. Maybe these people have a rude awakening in terms of their morals, their conscience, etc. The reparation committee could use this money for some developmental project that could benefit all Grenadians. I don't know what they're going to use it for, but they could use it. We have to remember that Dr. Keith Mitchell and Eric Geary are the two most criticized individuals, the two leaders that was able to win election more than one. So although there is a lot of criticism towards them, they have a lot of support in the country. Supported these two political leaders more than any other politician in Grenada. And a lot of people is going to criticize them because of political jealousy. They were successful and they were not. Dr. Keith Mitchell won his seat by 1,600 votes in the last election. I believe that he won by the biggest victory. So the people who are criticizing him, they don't have a leg to stand on. But they will continue with their criticism if other people don't neutralize them and face the facts and the truth. I think he has solved this country well. One of the programs, in fact, the very Imani program that I dislike so much, that is one of the programs, I think is one of the best programs that have been instituted to assist people who are finding it difficult to be competitive on the job market. We want to apologize again for not being here yesterday. We will be back with you tomorrow, God's will. And tomorrow is the International Women's Day. Tomorrow is International Women's Day. So obviously, you might want to speak about it or any other thing that you are interested in speaking about. We will tolerate it. And you don't have to agree with me on my program. You don't have to agree with me. If you disagree, I still entertain you. Thank you very much.